Jehovah Chronicles with your host, Cosmon Cal.
So, with such a premium being put on NFL quarterbacks, right? It is very rare. As a matter of fact, it's never been done ever. This is the first time it's ever been done that a person with a talent that draws a first round draft consideration, the at worst number 3 quarterback in the draft, and many's either number 2 or 1, and my personal number 1 quarterback from this draft was Shedeur Sanders. So with such a premium put on quarterbacks in the NFL, many stipulations and scrutinized, or things about the person are scrutinized when they're evaluating these talents. So, right, they take everything into account: the attitude, where he comes from, how he was raised, what does he think, like beyond all the on the field tangibles, right? With the quarterback, it's more even so about the thinking process and how the person himself is, right? And with that being said, Shedeur himself comes out flawless. He is exactly what you would want, right, in a profile for a quarterback. He's a winner. He's a great guy. You dig what I'm talking about? This is a guy who no man would really have a problem with dating their daughter, right? He's that type of guy. He was raised by that type of guy, right? We've all seen him from day one in the limelight, and the young man has never slipped. Never, right? So once we see this precipitous drop, and it had never been seen by NFL pundits ever. This is unprecedented. And for those who had common sense, we knew right then, whatever this was about, it wasn't about football, right? Whatever this was about, it wasn't about football. Why this man dropped in. A lot of hubbub is being made about the money, right? And it is so, because he went from virtually making $40 to $44 million being drafted in the first 10 picks to getting about $4 million. So the difference is about $40 million that he would have earned to what he will. Many people have said, well, you should be thankful. You dig what I'm talking about? That you even got the opportunity and you should just put your nose down and grind, right? Nothing wrong with that. You dig what I'm talking about? And to a certain extent, I agree. But when it stops being about the game, and this is a young fella, man, just starting off his life, it's unfair. When you've bent over backwards for people who've done much, much worse, and this guy has never done anything wrong. Now, over this weekend, one of the big homies, Stephen A. Smith, salute out to you. He came with an idea that he thought was collusion, right? Now, and let's not act like this is past the NFL, like the NFL doesn't collude. Remember, not a few years ago, but just a few years ago, they blackballed, they got together, colluded to blackball Colin Kaepernick. Now, I don't want to conflate like the situation between what Kaepernick was doing and what happened to Shedeur Sanders is anyway in the same, but we're stating the obvious because the NFL is not above colluding. I thought Stephen A. was like, it's a stretch, right? Right. And, you don't instantly want to jump into the black guy, white guy. Rah, 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 and I don't honestly, there's some aspects to that, but that's not what it is. Right. That's not what it is. That's what blinds you. The color thing. Right. Because people have been historically terrible to my people. You dig what I'm saying? People use that as a way to muddy up the waters, but that's not what happened. Because remember, why he fell has nothing to do with football. Okay? So, one of the narratives around his fall was that his dad, NFL Pro Bowler Deion Sanders, and had made some statements earlier pre-draft around Super Bowl time, right? Now come on, walk with me for a minute. Now, one of the biggest things that they've been saying in a narrative around his slip is that he's been being punished for something his father did, right? And it has a ring of truth to it. And in my final conclusion, it has a part to play in it, right? But one of the biggest hangups that they were saying was, it was his dad, his Pro Bowl dad, NFL Hall of Famer, NFL champion dad, who's never led him in the wrong way ever, is somehow we're worried about him being able to come in and take over and just tell people what he want to do because he was going to pull a Eli. And for those who don't know what an Eli is, the Sanders wouldn't be the very first family of football. You dig what I'm talking about? There's been others, and one of them is a quarterback named Eli Manning, whose brother Peyton was a great quarterback also, and whose father before him played quarterback named Archie. Well, when Eli was getting drafted into the league, Archie said he wasn't going to let his son play for certain teams, right? So, and he went on and did it. There was no pushback, really about that. But you must remember the time it was like an embarrassment to the NFL, and he forced his way You dig what I'm talking about? To where he wanted to, which was the New York Giants. Right? It ended up working out for him. They end up winning 2 championships under Eli. Right? But look what it says here. This from SI. Deion Sanders says Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter will pull in what? A Eli in a resurfaced clip. Now, the clip, right, is actually from $1 million worth of game. Shout out to Gillian Wallow. You dig what I'm saying? But the clip resurfaced again, right? And this is one of the reasons that they were saying, oh, we don't want Shedeur, right? And listen, if this was the only problem, his father, who's a great guy by all accounts, you dig what I'm saying, would be, I guess, in the mix, or the fear of that didn't stop anybody. That hasn't stopped anybody from doing anything. They, like I said, they picked some pretty bad guys to be in the NFL. You dig what I'm saying? Many of them. And they overlooked those off the field things because of their talent on the field. Shedeur has that type of talent. And mind you, this has nothing to do with Shedeur or his talent per se, right? Let me show y'all what it really got to do with. This is what they scared of, though, right? Watch. The thing that they're scared of is control. They gonna send a message, you don't run this. This is business. This is our business, and you do not run this, Mr. Sanders. We can tell. See, I understand a hazing ritual when I see one. I understand a humiliation ritual when I see one. This is not necessarily about Shedeur or Deion. This is about control, and the fear of losing it.
Where do you predict Shedeur and Travis going in the draft?
Top 4.
Ooh, that's pretty beautiful.
Anywhere from 1 through 4. One of them is going to be 1.
That's what I'm talking about.
One of them is going to be
speaking
1.
into existence.
And the latter one would not go behind 4.
Now take that into juxtaposition. The one that isn't his son went number 2, properly right where he went. Number 1, number 2, he went right number 2. The player, the great player at the more prestigious position, quarterback, is his son. He didn't get picked to 144, and he's arguably, at worst, the 20th worst player in the draft. Even Mel Kiper had him at number 6. The number 6 player in the draft goes 144 in the 5th round. Diabolical. Right? We knew right then, whatever happened, we seen the tape like y'all. First of all, how did whatever went in the meetings get out to the media? And look at the narrative. They cough up this narrative. Watch.
All this is subjective because I know where I want them to go. And let's not forget Shallow, okay? But I know where I want them to go. So there's certain cities that ain't gonna happen.
Okay, you on point.
It's gonna be it's gonna be an Eli.
Now look, let's read down what they're saying. Top 4, Sanders said, anywhere from 1 through 4. One of them is going to go 1. The later one will not go behind 4. Now, all of this is subjective because I know where I want them to go. And let's not forget Shiloh. Okay. But I know where I want them to go. This is a father speaking about his sons and a boy that he took in like his son. Travis. So there's certain cities that it ain't gonna happen. And it's gonna be, you know, sorry, it's gonna be an Eli, right? Look at the narrative put out. Deion references the most prominent modern example of this, Archie Manning not wanting Eli to play in San Diego 2 decades ago. LeVar Ball did something similar by willing Lonzo Ball onto the Los Angeles Lakers a few years ago. But the truly wild part is that, look, that Deion is not trying to determine where his own son plays, but Hunter, who is definitely not his son. But he raised him like he was, took him up under his arm, loved on that boy like he was. Travis trusted in him like a father. See, they don't understand there's more to this game when you're being a coach, right? You are like a leader, a general, but you're like a father also. You're raising men first, right? There's obvious connection as he recruited him to Jackson and then got him to follow. Trying to affect when and where he gets drafted, that's on a whole nother level. So that's the whole narrative behind that, right? They've been trying to push that narrative. Oh, Deion this, hands in this. Oh. Now, let's take a little, you know, sound bite from your boy Dan Patrick real quick. You dig what I'm talking about, and how he's kind of looking at it and trying to paint the narrative. And I've been noticing that the old guard media is trying to kind of bluff this out and smooth this out for the NFL. Why? Because everybody knows this stinks to high heaven. But he's trying to blame this on Deion about basically why he slid, right? The whole narrative about him having messed up meetings and all that, how that got out, we don't know. Don't matter, right? But, you know, I want y'all to understand that they're trying to paint the narrative that this is good for you, boy. This is good for you. How you come in with the chip on your shoulder, boy, and you work like you wasn't going to do that in the get-go. Well, now you need to humble yourself, boy. You need to be more humble. I want you to peep the narrative, right? This is Dan Patrick. Let's let him talk.
Like, you can tell us, and your dad can tell us. I just think that they probably needed somebody in their camp to say, I'm going to be honest with you here. Because you have a lot of yes men. If you're around celebrities, you're around actors, musicians, there's a lot of people who tell you what you want to hear. But you want to hear what is going to make you better, what is going to keep you grounded. He doesn't have an agent. And that agent might have been honest with Shedeur and just said, man,
and then right there, that's when the light went off, y'all. Right there. First of all, he made an assumption that he didn't have people around him who've been telling him the right thing, not just blowing his head up. That's what he got a daddy for. He did what I'm talking about, and he got a bona fide superstar in his daddy who gonna tell him everything right to do. So he did have that person in his ear, right? But see how they keep trying to make this about football when we know this is not about football. But Dan Patrick turned the light on for me. He said, Shedeur doesn't have a agent. Oh, right there. Right there. He doesn't have a handler. See, that's what an agent does, right? An agent is the handler for the NFL, right? If they don't think that they can keep their ropes and rings around you, right? They don't necessarily want to draft you, right? And that has to do with control, right? Let's listen some more to Dan Patrick. I'm going to go into this. Remember that, though. Shedeur don't have a agent. Why is that important, Cosmo? Let's let Dan go, and then we're going to clean it up.
I don't want to be a buzzkill, but I'm not hearing good things about this or this or this. Hey, we got to be ready for this. Like, that's what an agent does.
He's saying
I'm
like
sure
his
there
daddy
are
did.
advisors there. But Dion, when Dion was with us at the Super Bowl,
Look.
certainly felt like he was the battering ram. He was the Trojan horse. He was going in. And he was going to tell teams, don't draft my son. Talked about the Cleveland Browns not wanting his son to go there. But I think if somebody would have been or should have been honest, then maybe he wouldn't have suffered a painful lesson. Now, he would have gotten humbled, but he would have at least been prepared. And then that's when you...
This is when I know this was my first feeling was right. This is a humiliation ritual, right? I was right. It's about being humbled. That shouldn't have never even came out of his mouth. Why do you want a humble football player? That's an oxymoron. You want a player who is, just brimming, right, with self-assuredness, over the top, especially with a quarterback. So, and the problem with that narrative that he needs to be humbled, right? First of all, it reeks of Jim Crow, right? It smells, it gives dead carcass. And two, it reeks of I'm white, I'm right. You need to be humbled, boy. Humble for what? He's never done anything wrong, ever. Not even close. Right? Humble for what? From what? From being a winner? Turned around 2 different losing programs. Go on to win both bowl games at both places. Right? But here's the dog whistle. You need to be humble. Let's listen again.
Would have gotten humbled, but he would have at least been prepared. And then that's when you take the initiative. That's where you go, hey, I got things that I'm working on and will continue to work on. And I realize I'm not a finished product. I'm ready to go. Whatever Cleveland wants me to do.
He's assuming that he wouldn't do that. And he assumed that wasn't already happening. What I'm telling y'all is Dan Patrick is trying to keep this about football. And it has never been about football. Right? Let's go check something out. That got me to thinking, right? Who is Shedeur's agent, right? Who is his agent? Right? And when I was pulling it up, it wouldn't pull up who Shedeur's agent is. It still doesn't. But it pulled up who his brother's agent is. And until that day, and by the way, Shiloh's a great safety also. Right? He's a great football player in his own right. But neither one of them had an agent. And who was their agent? Their dad. And they didn't want to deal with Dion. We see that narrative, right? Look, Shiloh Sanders. And look, it wasn't till they dropped their dad 3 days into it, right? Shedeur is getting his punishment because he wasn't drafted to the end of the 3rd day, 5th round. There's only 7 rounds, right? So, Shiloh signs to an agent. They make sure to say he dropped his dad. They make sure they emphasize that right? And then it's not until 3 days into it that also Shedeur takes an agent. Next thing he gets drafted. Next thing he get drafted. Watch this, y'all. Shedeur Sanders and Brother Shiloh did not hire traditional NFL certified agents. Why is that a problem, right? Instead, it was expected that their dad, Colorado coach, NFL legend Deion Sanders, would help them negotiate their rookie contracts. As Shedeur continues to fall in the 2025 draft, out of the first 3 rounds, mind you, this was when he didn't get drafted to the 5th. Shiloh announced that he has hired a new agent, right? Former Buffalo's quarterback, Shedeur Sanders, Brother Shiloh Sanders, did not hire. It also says dad was our agent. But that hasn't been working out too good. Ha ha ha. So today I had to sign with an agent. Shiloh said, Shiloh gets drafted. Boom. Now, right, look, our dad with our agent, but that hasn't been working out too good. So today I signed with an agent. He signed with a coveted agent named Drew Rosenhaus, a pit bull. You dig on the agent scene. You dig what I'm saying? A well-known regular handler and manager, right? Not till Shedeur does the same that he gets drafted, right? So right then I realized I'm too close to this. I'm too close to this to actually see what's really going on, right? So I back up a little bit. Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders don't have traditional agents, Does it matter, right? Now, this is in late March, a month before the draft, right? Is the traditional Jerry Maguire sports agent a dying breed in the NFL? No, but times are changing. And this is what they don't want, yo. The NFL doesn't want the times to change, right? This is still slave picking. Get out in that field, boy. It's exactly what this is. You run this. We don't run this. We run this. You don't run this. Right? I was too close to it to actually see what was going on, right? Watch this. Miami quarterback. Miami Hurricanes quarterback Cam Ward is likely to land a 4-year contract worth more than $40 million if he's selected number 1 in the draft. Shedeur would have got about the same. But he still hasn't made a final decision on whether he needs a certified agent to represent him in contract negotiations. Why would you? Why would people think you need that? Why? Because an agent is always willing to work with the team to get the deal done. They'll take less, they'll do more. You dig what I'm talking about, and they don't necessarily have the best interest of the player at heart, right? So they can manage them, control them, keep them under wraps. You know what I mean? Ward instead might go with a traditional agent, just like quarterback Caleb Williams did last year when he was picked number 1. Now, mind you, this guy right here, Caleb Williams, who got picked number 1, right? Both Cam Ward, right? This guy here, Cam Ward and Shedeur are both better than Caleb Williams. And he got picked number 1 last year. Another top quarterback prospect, Colorado Shedeur Sanders, doesn't have a certified agent either according to the NFL Player Association. Neither does his brother Shiloh, right? Remember, we were just talking about quarterbacks. Why are they even bringing up his brother? an NFL safety prospect. Look, why? Because you can't never get away from this nigga. Their father, Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, provides plenty of pre-draft advice instead. Now, don't you think a guy who has mastered contracts, know how they work, know how to pivot, and this is his son, he would give him the best advice? But what a daddy gonna always do for his son is be willing to free him. And that's what the NFL team can't take. Because then they lose power, because they lose control. I was standing too close to this, y'all. I was standing too close to it. Remember, they just said that LeVar Ball did something similar by willing Lonzo Ball onto the Lakers a few years ago. That was a key too. So I wasn't thinking big enough. I was thinking just NFL. I got to think in all sports, all arenas, right? So I backed away from it. And I said, well, what are they afraid of? They're afraid of losing control. Well, why shedeur? Well, he is instantly a superstar. If he was able to run his thing to how he wanted to, he'd be able to leverage himself out of places to, make, the league would run around him or superstars who could do it. And this is why they never allowed them to do it. Right? Well, who has done that? And what is his representation like? Remember, I told y'all I was too close to it? You got to go look outside. You got to go pull back. And instead of just looking at NFL, look at all sport. But look who the big dog in all sport is, LeBron James. Right? But who is LeBron James' agent? Why did LeBron James run the league like it do? Why is his influence like this? Why he can't tweet without moving? Why don't people checking for what LeBron says and all that stuff and how he gonna do is how they move and why? Because LeBron James is agent. But who is LeBron James' agent? Rich Paul, his homeboy. And Rich Paul, who got set up by LeBron and then turned around and was the agent for LeBron, he has opened up the door for LeBron to. He dominates the league so much so that people who even thought Bronny wasn't good enough, and they were wrong, he even got him drafted and got him drafted on his team. None of y'all know who the number one pick of this past year's NBA draft. Who is number 2? Who is number 3? But if I ask you who the 55th pick was, you're going to tell me Bronny James. Huh? Why? Because he a star already day one. But Brian was able to, you could call it nepotism, whatever you want to. I call it power. Got his son to be able to play in the league with him while he's still balling. On the same team. How did he get that type of power? Incongruency with his childhood best friend. They had made pacts with each other that once he got on, he was going to turn around, put all his homeboys on. I always got to give LeBron James credit for that because he did it. Rich Paul is the biggest in the game. Why? Because he had the biggest star and he gave him the most power. Rich Paul negotiated for the most power, unyielding power. LeBron James' agent, Rich Paul, and his agency, which is called Clutch, have played a significant role in his dominance by fostering a player-first approach and strategic partnerships. Now, this is where I got to go back to my OG, Stephen A. Smith. You was right, bro. It's collusion. You was right? Not what locked it in for me was this right here, but what really locked it in was when we found out that reports did come out that certain teams was going around telling other teams to not hire him or to not have him on their draft list high. But it didn't make sense. Why? Why? Because they knew if he didn't get with a regular agent, he was going to have Dion working with him, and Dion was going to advocate for what? Player first approach and a strategic partnership that was going to put Shedeur in a position to become the LeBron James of football. Yes, he that. The talk around him, the star, the pizzazz. You dig what I'm saying? This includes influencing player in what? Empowerment. And whether, even though they got the NFL Players Association, you dig what I'm saying? The NFL run them too. This includes influencing player empowerment, team shaping dynamics, and leveraging James' influence to build a strong network of players and talent. When you got a superstar, other people want to come play with him. Remember, this whole thing is about control and power. And this is what I wanted to show y'all. It's about power, y'all, and about who got it and who got control. And this is what they were worried about, that if that boy had his daddy with him, they couldn't get down on him. As soon as he got an agent, he gets drafted. That locks in exactly what Stephen A was saying, but not for the reason Stephen A is saying it. This is about control and power and sending them boys in the whole league a message. We run this. This is what they're scared of. Player empowerment. And this is what a strong family of quote unquote Black or Aboriginal Americans look like. Did you see how well the boy handled this humiliation ritual? Oh man, I was so proud of him. He took it on the chin like a soldier. But what they don't know is they just empowered this young man. Everything you tried to do backfired. Because you left him in this hole and ditch, he's going to work out of it. Right? He's going to get him his own rich Paul. Right? And look what they've done together. And this is what they're afraid of in the NFL. Because see, in NBA and the NFL is a little different. They got guaranteed money in the NBA. It's slave, and if you can't slave for me now, none of that's guaranteed. Even though you worked your butt off. This is what they're afraid of right here, player empowerment. And this is what this whole lesson of teaching Shedeur, this is why you need to humble yourself, boy, because you and your daddy gonna learn a lesson. That's what the NFL was saying. Why? Because they're afraid of this. James and Paul, or let's switch it around and keep it on context. Shedeur and Dion are recognized as key figures in the player empowerment movement. This is what they're afraid of, right? Where top players have more control over their careers than the teams, right? This is what LeBron is working with. This allows LeBron to strategically choose teams and build rosters that align with his vision, enhancing his impact on both his own team and the league as a whole. And when you got a family with this type of pizzazz, they seen the writing on the wall. The NFL did not want to get LeBron. They didn't want to get LeBron. So, boy, we about to send you a message. Now, I wanted to see y'all how the NFL and white guilt kind of muddies up the water, right? Because they paint this picture like he wasn't this great NFL quarterback, or college quarterback. Like he wasn't this great athlete. Somehow, a guy who throw damn near 40 touchdowns, 4,100 yards in the Heisman race, he ain't a great athlete. Somehow, right? But this is from SI again, from Albert Breer, right? And this is about, now they got to clean this up. This is about the NFL draft takeaways, an honest discussion about Shedeur Sanders, right? This is your honest discussion. Well, let's be honest about it, right? Let's be honest about it. Let's see what he say, right? This starts with teams evaluations. He said, let's have an honest discussion about Shedeur Sanders, since there doesn't seem to be a lot of that out there in the aftermath of Sanders falling first through Thursday's night first round, and then Friday's night second and third rounds, all the way to the fifth round on Saturday. This starts with the team's evaluations of Sanders as a player. The story we had on Tuesday on the quarterback class as a whole, as it covered, if you read that, you would know it wasn't easy to find coaches or scouts who viewed the Colorado quarterback as a first-round talent coming into the draft. That is a lie. On many scouts, at worst, they had him as the third best quarterback. He was the number one quarterback on most people's, right? Even if not most, they knew generally they took him as, if it wasn't Cam Ward, it was Shedeur at 2, right? This is just on tape and just watching what we're watching and knowing that we've seen this before, right? But now here he comes retouting. First of all, everybody had him as Mel Kiper. Everybody has him at not only many of them as a top 10 draft pick, but at worst the 20th. The very worst, he would be the 20th pick. There's 32 picks in the first round. 4 teams actually needed quarterbacks. There were 6 quarterbacks went before him, all of them except arguably one, Cam, was better. Everybody else he was better than. But remember, they're trying to just move this back to football because that gives them the leeway. Well, we know what you guys don't know. But your eyes don't work better than mine. We get this. You're trying to leave this strictly at football, and we already realized a long time ago this has nothing to do with football. So look at the narrative. Now you did second, third in the Heisman. Now, for some reason, he's not a great athlete. Guess who else is not a great athlete? Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback to do it. Guess who else is not a great athlete? Aaron Rodgers. Guess who else is not a great athlete? Brett Favre. Guess who else is not a great athlete? Pat Mahomes. Guess who else is not a great athlete? Joe Burrow. But you know what they all are? Great quarterbacks. And everybody I named, all them great quarterbacks, Shedeur is a better athlete than all of them. Tom, Aaron, Ben Roethlisberger, Patty Mack, He's a better athlete than every one of them top, even Joe Burrow. He's a better athlete than Joe Burrow right now. Right? I'm not sitting here saying he's a better quarterback, but he's definitely a better we won't know that, but he's definitely a better athlete, right? But this is how they got to paint the narrative. He didn't show great arm talent. When? Where? Show that he throws the best deep ball. He got some of the best pacing. He throws a feathered ball. He got every throw, every slot. And he does it from the pocket. He said he had bad habits and taking unnecessary sacks. Unnecessary sacks. He was on a team that won one game last year. One. He took a team that won one game. So they were lacking in talent. This is why he took a lot of sacks. But they know this. But look, they got to paint the narrative. They got to figure out some type of way why he dropped, because we can't tell you on the tape. We can't show you all this. He's not a great athlete on tape. Every time we turn on the tape, he does show great arm talent. Every time he turn on the tape, he does show that he's a great athlete. He had bad habits in taking unnecessary sacks, but they don't tell how many times he had a man running free at him. He had to shake him. A guy hanging on him, we flip him over his head, throw the ball 25, 30 yards downfield on a rope, right? Because he's getting free edge rushers and guys up the middle at him all the time. But they don't tell you he sidestepped him, stepped in the pocket, climbed up, threw the ball perfectly for a 40-yard touchdown. They don't say that part. Right? Why? Because you don't have to. Because when you turn on the tape, it's evident. They said he had trouble playing on time in general, and did things off schedule that weren't going to translate to the NFL. Cap. Now, funny, these same things that they're trying to say is a negative for him, they give as a bonus to Patty Mack. Look, and this is how they try to write it off. That didn't make him hopeless, but it did mean teams thought he needed a lot of work. Nobody thought that. You're lying. Without overwhelming physical ability, he was going to have to fit, and he was going to have to find a fit and to go first round. Clearly, that fit didn't exist for Sanders this year the way it did for Bo Nix last year. Mind you, Sanders right now, today, is a better quarterback than Bo Nix. He ain't never even played a down in the league. And he was better than Bo Nix last year and the year before that. And he's better than Bo Nix now. And he's going to be better than Bo Nix next year. But they found a spot for him. You see how they trying to muddy it up? Like this got something to do with him? No, this has everything to do with power and control and the NFL not wanting to lose it. Soon as that boy, this is what we need to find out. And this is when, if this is right, if we find out this is true, this proves that Stephen A. is Negrodamus, and he was absolutely correct. Comparing it to Kaepernick, he was wrong. But everything else, he was right. If we find out that after Shiloh drops his dad as his manager and picks up a agent, if we find out that is when he gets drafted, That is the linchpin on it all. And it's coming out that we finding out that that's true. And this is why they're not reporting on why. His brother got drafted in the 7th round. And see, this is what they're afraid of. They knew he was a star. There was only 2 in the whole draft, Shedeur and Travis. Both of them teammates at Colorado, students and ball players for Deion. Both of them. This is what they're afraid of, y'all. The LeBron effect. Because what he gonna go do? He gonna go put his brother Bucky on. What he gonna go do? Make his own manager. That's what they really worried about. They not worried about Deion being a coach. They worried about him being an agent. Why? Because they've seen it before, right? They've seen it before, right? And they do not want rich. They do not want another. They can't afford a Rich Paul in the NFL, huh? Remember, they say the NFL is an acronym, mean not for long. Well, y'all better take a little dose of your own medicine, NFL, because this not about to last for long. You messed up. You messed up. Now, this boy is going to bet on himself. You're going to have to collude. You're going to have to do everything to try to stop this boy, because he is going to be unstoppable. Creator on this boy side. Creator on this boy side. Y'all can't see it because you're dog. And this is why I call this the Spirit Sports Network. You dig what I'm talking about? The Spirit and Sport Network. Because they don't even see the spiritual side of sports. But Cosmo gonna bring it to you. This is what they're afraid of, y'all. Player empowerment. Influence on player movement. They don't want this. Network and influence. Paul and James have built a strong network of players and talent within Clutch Sports, allowing them to move players across the league strategically and maintain a competitive advantage, right? And this is where LeBron killing them, and they don't want Shedeur in it. Marketing and business ventures. That's what it is. They're controlling all the marketing and business ventures in the game because the players don't have empowerment. In fact, Shedeur is the hope of that. What you don't know is you just made a rallying call. They seen you do that boy wrong. You don't think they thinking about what you'll do to them? And if you not NFL players, especially the ones with that brown skin, you white boy, you good white folk, you good white folk too. If y'all don't see the writing on the wall, slavery's over with. NFL gonna have to get with it. It's not for long, NFL. Yeah. And this is what they don't want. They didn't want James just like they didn't want Sanders. Agent has played a crucial role in his business ventures. It's going to be the same thing if you draft Shedeur. And this is what they was afraid of. And this is why Shedeur Sanders, you and your daddy going to learn, boy. That's what this is all about, y'all. And with that being said, love, light, balance. This your hostess with the mostest. Holding that fire like a roach clip Cosmonian, man. Blasting off into the atmosphere. Salute. Love, light, balance. And let that light in. Let that light in. That's right. Spear Sports Network.